Alrighty. Hi everyone. Welcome back to day 5 of our Weintek-Mas series. I hope the holidays are... Never mind. Today we're going to be doing a quick overview of REST APIs, setting up a quick small node server on it, and then doing some testing through Postman. So what are APIs? This is what helps communicate the server to the client. And so a client requests an HTTP request to a specific URL endpoint. Here, the server processes that request, grabs that data, and sends it back to the client. It also gives back a status code of, hey, is it good or not, or if there's an error. And this is typically done in the JSON format, but some older applications do use XML. So REST is a common way to design your web APIs. You can interact with it using standard HTTP methods like get, post, put, and delete. There's also patch in there. And this is usually done in that JSON format like we talked about earlier. So let's break it down a little bit more. What are these? So get is you grabbing data out of the server. Post is you creating a data node in the server. So like a new form that you put in the server. Put is you making an update to that form. So like changing the name in there and then putting it back in. And then deleting is taking that form out of the server. From each request, like I said earlier, you get a status code. So 200 would be like a good request. 201 is the request is created. 404 is that endpoint does not exist, it's just not in there. And then 500 is a internal server error. There are a whole bunch of these error codes that help you diagnose if there's a problem or if you've done something successfully, and they're very critical within REST APIs. So now let's create a simple to-do app and see how all this works together. For this node server setup, you're going to need to run some commands to get the correct packages. So for npm, you run the init-y, and then we're also going to need to have express. So you can do the npm I express to get that in. And after that's downloaded, we're going to start a simple web server. And for this, we're going to set it up on port 3000 because it's a pretty basic port that's always open on my PC. Next, I will enable express.json so the server can automatically parse incoming JSON requests bodies and send JSON easily. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Most of this is done in JSON, but XML is also possible. From there, let's create an array to hold my to-do list. So each to-do item will have an ID, a task, and a done value. And that tracks whether it's completed or not. And these are the values we can manipulate later on. And then let's go down and let's create a get endpoint. For the get, we're just going to grab everything that's in the to-do list. So I put in some example ones in there that we're just going to pull out. And yeah, we'll just return that array, which sends it back in JSON format. And then to start the server, I'll use app.listen. And we're going to set this to the port 3000 that we had set up earlier and log the URL to the console. And then I'll run that using node, and then my file is called app.js, so we're going to send it on that. And then in Postman, we're going to do a GET request at that local 3000, and then the endpoint I use is /API/todo. And then we should see a sample to-do item that we place in the array, and we get that out. So that's grabbing all the information that we put in, but let's create a new part or not a new part, but a new to-do list or to-do item in the to-do list. And for that, we're going to use a post request. And so for the post, we'll use app.post with the same endpoint API/todos because we already have that. And then this time we'll use rec and request, and we're going to use both of them because we're receiving the data from the client. And so the request body will include a task and an optional done value. If the done isn't provided, we'll default it to the false. And all of this comes from the rec.body. And then from here, we'll validate it. So if a task isn't placed in the request body, then we'll release a 400 status code, which is an error message, and an error message along with it. If it's valid, we'll create a new object called new to do, and that includes the task, the ID, if it's done or not, and we'll add it to the array.push. We'll add it to the array using to-do.push, and the new to-do will be in it. And then we'll return a 201 status code, along with also incrementing our count value. This just helps keep track of the ID, just because that's not something you want the user to enter, and we kind of want to keep that internal. And when we run it on Postman, we see that it pops out with the new to-do list along with the new to-do value that we placed in there. And that covers it. API requests are also available on Weintek-Mas through JS objects. And so we have a whole bunch of documentation and an SDK on how to set that up and that object. And please, if you have any questions, please reach out on our forum or in the comments below. We love that. And that will conclude day 5. I hope you are having a great holiday season, and we'll see you back for day 6. Catch you guys later.